Hi
Long
there.
time no see.
It's been a while, Susan. It's good to see you again.
You're still kicking around. That's
I'm
good.
still
Teaching men
kicking around.
how to make love to women, huh?
Well, it's more trying to have them be successful with women. You're the one that I
Yeah,
think helps more with the making love part.
that's true. That's true. We're a good combo, aren't we? Yeah, I've probably known you for a couple of decades now, man.
It's crazy how time goes by, you know. It's
I
just
know.
scary. It's really scary, you know. When I think back on how many years have just sort of flown by, it's just unbelievable. But in any event, I'm glad to see you again, and I'm sure
Me
you
too.
have some interesting new things to share with us. And
Always.
I guess maybe you can start off again by just introducing yourself and then telling us a little bit about what you'd like to talk about this evening.
Sure. Well, we had decided that what we wanted to talk about was women's libido desire and arousal, female arousal as it compares to male arousal. Mostly just so that guys have a much better sense of things they can do to be successful in making love to their woman. What can they do? What do they need to know? What's their perspective versus a woman's perspective? How can they get in her world and have her really feel like she's met and understood by him and she feels safe with him and that they feel in mutual alignment? Because, as you know, Cliff, it's very nerve wracking. Dating is very nerve wracking. Sex is very nerve wracking. You know, it's fraught with a lot of worry and fear. And so the more that you can show up as the man who's comfortable in his own skin and who understands how to be with a woman, the better off everybody does.
Well, listen, this is a very valuable information for guys who, don't, I think, often get the opportunity to hear a woman talk about these things and I guess be as candid as you are about them.
Yeah. Well, I always like to be a straight talker because people just want you to tell them the information that they need. And there is a lot of misinformation online. There's a lot of people doing information cascade, which is, well, they said it and they said it and they said it, so that must be it, so that's what I'm going to say. And over the last few decades that I've been teaching people how to be good lovers, be a better lover, I've really tried to stay close to my own original information and content, as well as take in all of the information from medical texts and new clinical data, things we're learning from work, neurosexual neuroscience and MRI machines, things that I've taken up out of the, pickup and attraction world, the things that I hear from feminist women about what their needs are, other sexperts. I'm constantly pulling in information to feed my understanding of what it takes for generally, although now, Cliff, everything is pretty much across the gender spectrum. My area of expertise is a man and a woman and hot sex. And that really is a combination of understanding how we're the same and different and having good, technically proficient sexual skills and also being a good bedroom communicator because it takes quite a bit of just practice to be a good bedroom communicator.
Where,
And go ahead. Did you want to say something?
well, I'm just curious, like, where do you start with guys typically when you meet someone
Yeah.
to sort of take them through, what you have to teach them?
Well, let's start with you have a prospect and you want to go to bed with them. And you've never gone to bed with them before. So I think it's always good to start with that for your world, for the men that follow you and get your advice on Cliff's list. And for that, here's where I'd start. I'd explain the difference between her female body and your male body, not just you have a penis and she has a vagina, but more about how there's a fairly new terminology that I really like. This notion that there are people who are sexually responsive and there are other people who are more spontaneously sexual. Spontaneously sexual people are horny. They're ready to go. They'd like to have sex anytime or, most times. And that is often how you would describe a guy, a healthy guy. But people who are have responsive desire, these are people who like sex, want to have sex, are open to it, but they're not quite there yet. They're not ready to go. They're not like down to go. They're more of the responsive person. And that is more typically the female. She's just like, sometimes she's ready to go, especially early on in a relationship, but sometimes she needs to be safe and comfortable and have some conditions met and help climbing up her arousal ladder. And she wants and needs some seduction with integrity, not just trickery. She doesn't want to be a one-night stand or, anything like that. She really wants to have something that's more meaningful, heart-connected, based in friendship and appreciation, mutual turn-on, etc. So a guy, if he's healthy, he has nighttime erections, he wakes up with a morning erection, he's horny, he's ready to go, and he's really ready for penetration quite quickly. He gets an erection and he could have intercourse. But women, they're not really like that. They're much more slow to become aroused, typically. Now, in new relationship energy, sometimes you can bypass that and she's ready to go. But generally, it's better to take your time with a woman. And that's why there's this notion of foreplay and sex. The thing is that when you think about sex like there's foreplay and intercourse, what often happens is that you're rushing to intercourse. And that can be too fast for the typical woman. She wants to be held. She wants to know you think she's beautiful and that she smells good and that she tastes good and that you like kissing her and that she's pretty to you and sexy to you and that, things are safe. You're going to use protection if she needs it. You had STI tests done before you had sex. Whatever your conditions are for safety, those need to be met. And then she needs a fairly slow arousal ramp. She doesn't get an instant erection like guys do. She gets a slow erection where it takes a guy maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get an erection. It takes a woman 20 or 30 minutes to become fully erect because women have the same amount of erectile tissue in their vulva and vagina, in their genitals, as their male-bodied partners do in his penis. And his penis, if you think about if you think about your penis sticking out of your body, that's about half of it. The other half goes in and down towards your testicles. So it's twice as big as what you see is the erectile tissue in your penis. If I took that out and I laid it in my hand, all that erectile tissue would cover my hand. It's exactly the same for a woman's body. It's in 3 chambers in your penis. It's in 3 chambers in her vulva. But the chambers are small and funny little shapes, and it takes a while for the blood to seep in to those erectile tissue systems to fill up so that she gets basically her lady boner. And for you, you've got 3 straight tubes that fill up very easily and very quickly. So she needs more time to get fully aroused. And a lot of times women are used to being penetrated so quickly that they don't even know about full arousal. They may have never even gotten there. Or they did with that one special guy who somehow she was so turned on, or she was, ready, or he took the time to get her there, that was the best sex of her life. And the thing is that if you penetrate a woman before she's ready, then she basically doesn't have that engorgement, that erectile function. And so the tissue is small and it has less surface area. But if you wait and you really pleasure her whole body so that there's time for her to relax. Because for a lot of guys, what they're ready to do is they're like, I want to push some buttons, I want to turn some knobs, and I want to get her turned on. And the thing is, what they don't understand is that relaxing her is the beginning of her arousal process, making her feel safe, adored, appreciated, comfortable. That's what will allow her to climb that arousal ladder. That's what allows the blood to seep in and create more tumescence in her genital system, which creates more surface area, which sends way more signals of pleasure to her brain. It's like the difference between how good it feels to be pleasured when you're erect or flaccid. It's the same for her, but she may not even know that. So it's great when a guy understands and he takes his time. The other thing that I think is important to know is that a woman likes to be touched from the outside in. If you think about a bullseye, she really wants her hair to be stroked, her cheeks to be kissed, her body to be touched, her chest to be pleasured, not just going directly for her genitals. A guy would be perfectly happy for her to put his manhood right in her hand immediately. He would like that. It would actually be comforting for him. Grounding would be a turn on. But for her, that's too fast for most women. There are always outliers on the bell curve of sexuality. What I'm really talking about are most human beings and what they generally like. You know, it's always your mileage will vary. The other important piece to think about in this bullseye touch technique is that instead of going straight for the center, her genitals, you're working from the outside in. You're touching her extremities, rubbing her back, squeezing her bun, stroking her belly, her shoulders, her neck, kissing her eyelids, rather than just sticking your lips on hers and sticking your tongue in her mouth. You know, it's a working your way in. And her lips and her breasts are the three-legged stool with her genitals of her arousal system. So that's why kissing and breast pleasuring are as important as manual and oral stimulation, using toys before penetration. And I think that also it's really good to have had things like the safe sex talk and do you like lube and what do you like and how do you feel today? Are you more of a lioness or a kitty cat? What are you in the mood for? How do you like the lighting? What temperature feels good to you? Oh, I've got a big stack of soft towels. What music are you in the mood for? I've got a pitcher of water by the bed. When you set what I call the lover space and you really create this environment for her complete relaxation, when she knows that she's safe in your arms, and when you really are truly appreciative of the opportunity to make love with her, she is so much more responsive and able to relax to begin that arousal process. And then when you ask her to always tell you everything, say to her, I don't know what your experience has been like with other men, but I want to let you know that I'm the kind of guy that loves it when you tell me everything, anything. If it's too hard, too soft, you want something else, if something's scratchy, if something's bothering you, if it feels good, anything, harder, faster, lighter, softer, everything. Just keep telling me as much as you can, because what I've understood about women is you're different every day. I'm not going to do to you today what we did last time we were together. I want to find out what your appetite is like, because every day we are different, and I want to just show up really present here with you and enjoy and take our pleasure together. And when a woman is invited to actually tell you what she needs and what she desires, and she does it, the very best thing you can do is say, thank you, tell me more. Got it. How's this? Really acknowledging her and encouraging her to continue to tell you what she needs in any moment will create essentially a level of trust in the communication that you have with her, where she knows that you don't take it personally when she needs something different than she's getting, that you won't cave, that you won't get butthurt, that you won't shut down or get mad at her, but in fact that you appreciate her for telling you how to be successful. And then when you're able to show her your pleasure, not just hold back, not just be in your head, not just try to strategize what it is that you think she wants, but instead that you're focused on an interplay where together the two of you are surrendered to your pleasure together, that she knows that you're getting as much pleasure from being with her as she is from being with you. That actually aids her turn on. She doesn't want you to do her. She wants you to be with her, present with her. She can tell when you emotionally, mentally kind of check out and you get in your strategy head. And that's the time to leave all of those things behind and just connect in your heart, and to connect your heart to your manhood so that she can feel that inside her. That's what people are wanting and needing when they get that emotional connection. And another thing women want beyond the emotional connection is good grooming. That might not seem that important to you, but women tell me their top two things. Number one is grooming. Number two is emotional connection. So it's not so much about the techniques. Those are all great to learn, but it's about really showing up clean smelling. Your toes don't look like Shrek. You've been to the dental hygienist. There aren't a lot of ear hair, eye hair, nose hair issues. Your package is well manscaped. These things, your fingernails are trimmed. They're not sharp and scraggly. Those kinds of things. Your sheets are clean. Those kinds of things go a long way with women. We're very sensitive to that kind of thing. So everything I've said, I am imagining that if you're a man, you listen to me and you go, no, I knew all that. She didn't tell me anything new. And yet I know that you're not doing it. You don't have that checklist. You haven't done those things. You think you might have, but have you really? Are you really showing up like that? Are you really putting that intention into your lovemaking? And men often overestimate their skills because of testosterone. It's not really your fault. It's just how you're wired to assume that, honestly, for a lot of guys, they kind of have this egoic protection around thinking they're better than they are. And there are many things that if you listened to what I just said and really thought about it, are you doing those things? Could you make yourself a checklist of those? Is that how you're showing up? There might be a few that you could improve. And they may sound fundamental, but they're very, very vital.
Yeah, no, I think it's very important to be paying attention to what's going on at the moment. And personally, I like to do a lot of teasing in bed. That's something that I guess discovered a long time ago. It usually seems to work pretty well. So I guess you've had a lot of experience with guys. How do you find most of them react to these kind of instructions in the first place? Does it take a while for them to adjust, or do they pick up on these things right away after you've given them some good coaching?
Well, I think generally, first of all, men are very easy to teach things to, because they have this orientation of just give me the checklist and I'll friggin' do it. If they trust me, if they're like, yeah, I think you know what you're talking about, then they just want a checklist so they can execute, because they're very goal oriented and they just want to accomplish the goal. And the goal that they want is, I want to blow her mind. I want to give her the best orgasms she's ever had in her life. I want to be her personal best lover. Men are competitive and they're goal oriented and they're completion oriented. And so when you tell them how to win, how to be a winner, how to gain her respect, they really appreciate that. Now you're talking their language. And so that one piece about presence, about getting out of your strategy mind and into your heart and connection, I would say of all the things I said, that's the place that men struggle the most, because they want to do such a good job. They can't let go and surrender to their own pleasure because they are so worried about giving her pleasure. Yet the surrendering is actually what would give her the most pleasure.
Imagine you get some good feedback from women after you've gotten their guys on track.
Yes, I think that what women need most from me is to help them understand that they're different every day, that that they don't have a low libido, that it's just that it takes them time to get there, that they're women have been having sex like men because that's all they know. They don't understand that they're totally different. So once they're like, that's why I'm like that. It's not me. It's all of us. It's such a relief for them that they suddenly feel much more empowered to begin to say what their body needs in any given moment.
Well, that's very interesting. Have you had like a lot of different reactions from guys from this? Have some of them come up with some either very creative twists on these, or have had trouble assimilating some of your advice?
No, I don't think so. I just think it's so straightforward and it makes so much logical sense when I say it that it's pretty easy for guys to understand. One of the things that I think that a lot of what I've been doing lately that's been really helping couples generally is something that I call my sex life bucket list. And this is really good for people who are just starting to date as much as it is for people that have been together for decades. And that's because I can teach you the fundamental communication skills. I can teach you sex techniques. But often what people actually want, if you think about when you're having sex, you want it to be a fun time. You want it to be an adventure in pleasure. And sometimes you end up doing the same thing. You follow this pattern, and I call it grab a boob and stick it in. You basically just are like, okay, well, first we're going to make out, and then, I'm going to rub her feet, and I'm going to tell her she's pretty, and then we're going to make out, and then I'm going to play with her boobs, and then I'm going to go down on her, and then we're going to have intercourse, and then I'm going to be done, and I want a sandwich. And that's okay, but it gets boring. And people want to have many more experiences now together. They want to do fun things. And so I've come up with 48 erotic play dates that give couples about 48 ideas of things they could do together. I think I have one right here. I think I have one of my, here we go. One of my bucket lists right here. And essentially what this does is it's a printout. It's at sexlifebucketlist.com and it's free. It's a PDF and it comes with a download that you can print out at home. And the 48 ideas are on this sheet. And essentially it's kind of like a list of really fun erotic play dates, adventurous sex experiences that you can have together. One of them, it starts out with the 20 different kinds of orgasms that the human body can have. There are slight differences between the male and female body, like we have what's called a G-spot, men have a P-spot, you have an outie, we have an innie. But basically we have the same parts arranged in different order. And they respond to lots of different pleasure. They respond to locations to be stimulated. They respond to techniques to use, like erotic hypnosis, something you and I are both very aware of, to things like objects of desire, maybe, a new sex toy or some fetish gear or what have you. And what's great about that is that you can go through the list of the 48 erotic play dates and you can mark them A, B, or C. A is, oh, this is definitely going on my sex life bucket list. I've always wanted to do this. B is, it's not for me, but if you wanted to do it, I would be down for doing it with you. And C is, it's not for me right now. Never say never, because as you become more sexually sophisticated, different things begin to appeal to you. There's definitely an ascension model in sexuality. And if you play it right, you can have great sex your whole life long if you take good care of yourself, because your sex, having good sex, is actually so healthy for you. It improves your longevity and makes you a more appealing and attractive person as you age. So the Sex Life Bucket List gives you a video where I walk you through all 48, because there are some you're like, I don't even know what that is, which is kind of fun to know that there's more ahead of you. And so I think that what's really nice is when you bring that kind of beginner's mind to your sex life together, whether it's your first date, okay, well, tell me what you like. Tell me what's good for you. Everybody's so different. What are you into right now? What do you feel like right now? I could throw out a bunch of ideas, which is a really great way to do it. Let me give you 3 or 4 different scenarios. I could give you a yoni massage with my, my sexy lubricant. We could try something like 69. We could try some sex positions around my house. Like, I've got this round chair by my fireplace. We could have sex there, and then we could have some sex in my bed. Are you experimental in that way? I've got a few toys in my toy chest. Sometimes I like to put a blindfold on a woman and tie her down a little bit and, never do anything she doesn't want. You can always communicate with me. What might be fun? What would you like? Do you want to do a lingerie photo shoot? When you come over Saturday, I could have some lingerie and some sexy heels for you, and I could take pictures of you. The light could be good right by my window here. Once you've got the bucket list, you've got a bunch of ideas, and you can run a woman a menu of offers and see what tickles her fancy. And then know that if she shows up, it could be a totally different thing by the time she gets there. To be like, oh no, I don't want to do a lingerie photo shoot now. What I was thinking we could do is, But giving women lots of offers always really helps as well, because then she can kind of pick and choose from the things that you lay out and know that it doesn't even need to be those things. It could be anything that she wants. I think that's a good way to have a lot of fun with a partner as well.
I guess I'm a little curious about what your thoughts are of the whole, call it, sexual environment today. There's been a lot of change, I think, out in the world and the social lives of most people. I mean, you've got something like something which I think is a little more prevalent in the U.S. than it is up here in Canada, but things like OnlyFans has had a major impact on I think the overall perception of what goes on between men and women today. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm curious about your thoughts and opinions on that.
Sure. Well, I think things are only getting better sexually for everyone. Specifically, I think that people are exploring more gender expression. They're having more partners. There are next generation technologies in STI testing. I'm the chief advocacy officer for a company called Basis Diagnostics, Basis DX, and they have a very, very high and super nice comprehensive STI testing home collection kit that you mail back. You can keep them around your house, and then you can mail it back when you want a fast turnaround on STI tests, and they get it, and within 48 hours you've got in your email your STI panel results. So I think people are learning much more about how we use technology in that way. An explosion in sex tech. So there's so many great toys. I think that I call them tools rather than toys that couples can use, and so you can use it for solo pleasuring. So I think that's big. And I think there's a lot of movement in the world of monogamish and open relating and polyamory. So there's that whole sphere of possibility. So I think generally, and there's more awareness of anatomy and the difference between the bodies. There's more just the whole, bucket list and experimentation is much more available. There's just more conversation about our sexuality. It's still highly censored. It's still hard to talk about it, but it's getting better and better. So I think that all of those things feed into people having more and better sex and wanting it for longer in their life, not feeling like they're going to age out of their sexuality.
Well, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of sort of isolation lately in terms of men are having less sex than ever these days, and that they're blaming a lot of it on social media. That somehow or other, despite the fact that we're more connected, it's keeping us more apart in certain ways. Do you agree with that, or what do you think about that?
I think there are a lot of people who feel like they have to work too much, they don't make enough money, they're not meeting people. I think there are a lot of people who feel isolated. And you asked me about OnlyFans, and I actually think that all of those lonely people who found community and connection on OnlyFans are a lot happier than they would be without it. I think it's a nice way for people to get some connection and camaraderie in a sexual way that is, beneficial and further gives them confidence with other women. There's safe spaces where they can, have some sexuality. So I actually look at that as a good thing as well. I also think that when you're on OnlyFans, you're dealing directly with the people who are providing the services. And in the old paradigm of pornography, it was the companies that were making the money, but not the stars. And now people can make the money directly, and you can connect with the stars directly. You don't just have to watch them on a screen. You can actually interact with them. And I think that's very appealing to a lot of people too. More men than women, obviously, because that's the bulk of the market. So yes, there are people who feel more isolated, but there are equally people who feel less isolated because of technology.
Well, that's an interesting twist. I think a lot of people think of it in terms of I guess the people who are successful with women are being more successful. It's like the top 1% gets 90% of the activity, and the rest of the guys are typically left more or less struggling without seeing the results that the top 1% are seeing. I think that's probably more what people are seeing. And the thing is that OnlyFans, yes, you're having more of a kind of a sexual encounter with your host there, but it's a paid experience. It's not necessarily something that would have happened without the lubricant of cash. So I'm sure a lot of guys look at it differently, but it's certainly become an incredible business. Certainly, the brilliance of the guys behind it of basically cutting out the porn producer and letting the women sort of deal with that themselves it's a genius business plan for sure, and they've certainly been well compensated, I think, for that. But I think in a lot of ways, a lot of men are more isolated because of it. because women look at them more as customers and more as someone that, they can get subscribing to them and paying for their attention, as opposed to just sort of meeting someone in a more, call it old-fashioned manner. And I like I said, it's nothing is black and white. I think there's probably good elements to it and bad elements to it. But I think I think a lot of men have become more isolated lately than I seem to remember over the last several years. It seems to be become much more prevalent these days. Where do you see, I guess, people connecting better these days, and what is really something that you think is going to make a difference in terms of maybe alleviating these feelings of isolation and like desperation in a lot of men?
It's such an individual experience.
For sure.
There have always been men who have felt isolated and women who feel isolated. And the only thing that I can say is that we're all fragile beings. We all have, well, let's just maybe say 9 out of 10, because there's a sociopath in every 10. 9 out of 10 of us have kind and loving hearts and have love to give and would like to receive love. So when you're feeling, oh, my penis isn't big enough because I'm not a porn king, or I don't know how to talk to women because I have a neurodivergency, I'm an Asperger's person, or what have you, or I don't feel like I would be attractive enough or I could have enough to offer. Remember that you always have enough and you always are enough because you bring a loving heart and care and connection and attention and affection and soul support. And really, when you walk out into the world and you are loving and respectful and kind and considerate, that comes back to you. That's the practice. The practice is getting out of your own way, getting out of the I'm not enough, I'm not enough, to I have an abundance of love and kindness and attention and affection to give. I'm a hard worker. I have integrity. These are the things that make you attractive. These are the things that make you love yourself, and therefore you become lovable. So it's being a good man. That is what we want from you. No more. It's enough, and you're enough.
Yes, I totally agree. Every man, every person is a gift, and it's a question of just sort of, I guess, opening the package and seeing what's inside. Sometimes, I guess that more or less seems to cover it. Maybe you want to tell people a little bit more about, what, if they want to learn more about what you have to offer them. I don't know if you have products, coaching, whatever it is. Maybe you can tell them a little bit about that now.
Sure. Thank you, Cliff. I have an email newsletter, and that's where I do all of my sex techniques, my communication skills, and my encouragement and love. You can sign up for it at betterlover.com. And if you have any questions for me, you can reply to any email you get from me, and it personally goes into my inbox privately. And I will reply to you. Sometimes it takes me a few days. I'm a busy girl, but it's my joy to support you and give you direction toward the things that are of interest to you. And of course, you can always get the Sex Life Bucket List and see if there's some things there that are the next steps on your journey. So thank you so much for having me, Cliff. It's been great to connect with you again. I really appreciate it. It's so good to see you.
Yes.
And I appreciate how you're always such a thoughtful and kind-hearted person.
You're very kind to say that. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time with me this evening, and I think the guys are going to get a bit of a different perspective from a woman tonight from this discussion, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of their comments.
Me too.
All right,
Thank you
thanks
so
very
much.
much. Okay. So I guess you have to turn it off now.
I do. I'm going to.